Hi, everyone. I'm Stephen Malora, owner of Prosperity Counseling. Already unpolished, right? And this is my first episode of VITRIOL, a live stream / podcast / whatever the hell, which is just off the cuff and two people just having a conversation and seeing what happens. So, hey, this is Nance. What's up, Nance?
Hello.
Now, we actually met through Facebook. We had a very good conversation on someone else's wall about gender dynamics, and that's what we've been talking about recently.
All right. Where do you want to begin?
I don't know. Well, we've been talking about gender dynamics and trying to have our cake and eat it too. Having to
actually, like a funny way to start a whole process is like so we're just talking about gender dynamics, like bam.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is just a normal conversation.
Where are you in that? How many thousands of years deep does this go?
Yeah. Remind me, Nance, are you private practice or what do you do?
I am right now. I do a very small private practice. I work with men and women. A lot of it is around confidence. It's like therapy, right? And so like you say, like what's the depression, anxiety, whatever, like all that shit's the same, but it's really about like the fun question would be what are the three things you say the most to all the people, right? And so to me that is inside out, outside in. Like how do you take care of your body? How do you for health, how do you take care of your environment and set that up in a healthy way? And then how do you deal with the interpersonal and power dynamics between yourself and the other people around you so that you're actually looking at creating this life that you want to live in and not worrying about the pressure that other people are telling you to do. So that's a very broad three main things I say to people, but
all right, cool. No, that's good. And if other people are like, hey, I want to work with this Nancy person, where can they find you?
That would be at my precariously spelled website, nancepease.com. It's like the most terrible name to pick for a domain name, but like it's also my name.
NancePease.com. I will make sure that we actually have it on like either the YouTube site or the wherever the copy is, so that people can just click it. But all right, cool. So in your practice, and we've been kind of talking about like where do you see, man woman dynamics kind of like where do they go? Where do they go either with your clients or just seeing in the world? What happens?
I mean, I think like what I see is a very kind of easy to generalize sense for my clients to the world, or at least the westernized American world, right? Men and women struggle in relationships vastly for relatively similar dynamics. These days, media has made so many women concerned about if they're dating a narcissist or if their ex is a narcissist because their ex did something that they didn't like, and so then they must be a narcissist without ever making anyone wonder if you yourself might actually be the narcissist.
Yes.
Or like the way that I put it, which is like maybe some of the narcissism actually isn't so bad after all, and people might do better with a little more healthy narcissism, but like also maybe nobody's a narcissist.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but yes. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's certainly not as many people as what they're trying to make money off of trying to convince you are narcissists.
Yes.
I think that, a lot of the things that I see around that are just very similar. Like it's the communication dynamics that are just kind of messed up between people. Men don't know how to behave for women. Women don't know how to say what they want. Men are very simple. Tell me what you want. And women are like, oh, the most dreaded question ever. And I was like watching the show last night, and like even like a ghost comes up, an alien comes up, and what's the first thing they ask them? What do you want? But like, like you can't. I mean, you can ask a ghost that, but you can't ask a woman that. So, I mean, that's basically like our ability to check our desires is like beyond alien, beyond dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this big communication gap. If I'm going to try to express to you what I want now, I'm not skillful at it. I've been so cut off at it. I haven't had time to practice it. It's going to take me 50 fucking minutes to figure out where I even want to eat. So, you know, maybe you should just keep a running list. But I'm also going to ask you to be very astute at knowing that, even though nobody ever told you that, because that's going to save the argument when you want to know where to go to eat, and you don't want to be controlling by telling, and I don't want to be high maintenance by having a demand about it.
I am now controlling, though. As someone who was formerly very socially anxious, very weak, cowardly, and people-pleasing, I'm like the opposite now. And I'm like, I was actually a few months ago, me and this other guy were on a grocery store run because we were at this event and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, nope, this is what we're doing, etc. We're doing this. Put it in the thing. Let's go. And now but it is controlling. And in fact, it gave me some crap for it. And imagine that being a male-female dynamic.
But it's so I think context becomes important, though. Like, did you ever have a job where you had a boss?
Yes.
Okay.
Most of them.
You were in the military. You were Army?
I was U.S. Army, Operation Iraqi Freedom from 2007 to 2008, and I was reserve both before and after that.
Okay. Your end rank when you left?
Specialist. So I did not get to any, so that's E4. I did not get to any non-commissioned officer status because I didn't, for various reasons, I was not good at leading people. Okay.
So you got bossed around a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And chose not to be the boss or arounder, but you know, the whole point of the leadership is that sometimes people are controlling certain situations, right? And so like I think it's important for us to distinguish the difference between like that being controlling and someone being in charge, leading, being like in control of a situation, because so many people feel so out of control with all these things in their situation lately.
Yep. That
and I mean, and like the average human has difficulty making decisions in general. The average human has to make, I saw a stat somewhere like 35,000 decisions a day. I don't even know where they came up with that number. Like who can prove that? I don't know. But even still, like, even if it's not that ridiculous, like just think about like the number of decisions you do have to make in a day. It is pretty ridiculous, right? And so we know that decision-making fatigue is a thing. There's research out there for that, right? And so like a lot of times people who whether they lack self-trust or not, or whether they just are not that invested in things, or whether they have a preference to like follow the directions versus lead, or have someone else decide for them, or I just bought one of those home meal delivery box kits to try that out and see what that, like someone decided for me what food goes in there, what I can eat in a week. I paid them for it. It's beautiful. One less thing to decide. And so like we like when people come in and make decisions for us, and it's not controlling if they're doing it in that way. Like context matters, right? Like if they're doing it in a way that kind of like supports the mission, the togetherness of it, we're like, oh, thanks, that's cool. Or like, I wasn't that invested in it, so we had to make a choice about like what time we're gonna meet today, right? Like someone like, how about this time, right? Oh, okay, that's great. If there's a disagreement, then we come back with it. So it's not like we're like giving up everything to someone else, dictate, oh, I'm gonna move my schedule around because you said that time, and you're controlling. Like, it's not, you know, like having someone control a situation, be in charge, makes us feel safe and secure. We like that. It's just that we need it to be a person who can, like, that we can trust for that and is confident.
I love it.
And then at which point we're like, here, tell me. And we want to feel confident that if we disagree, that we could speak up and that they're going to hear us back, and not just, because that's where controlling comes in, right? Where we're like, yeah, I don't know that I like that kind of thing. And then they're like, no, you do it now. Right? So that's where we have the problem. Be controlling. People get money for that shit.
This is true. Leadership is fun. Control, or maybe as the internet people say, frame is good. We actually met through a friend of ours, wonderful, wonderful person, Amber Lida. Love her to death. If you're a counselor and you don't subscribe to Amber Lida, you are wasting money. You are leaving it on the table. Follow her, learn her ways. She's badass. But she posted something, and it became a very good conversation about male-female interactions. The main idea of the post was, guys don't get how scared women are of guys. Now, true, but the way the thread kind of went, a lot of people said some things that was basically, women are afraid of men, and men should be ashamed for that. Or at least that was what I was getting out of it. Now, some people can fight me on that. We can go through the internet thing. We can go through step by step. We met on this because going back to that trust idea. Yeah, all right. So I'm a trustworthy. I like to think I'm a trustworthy person. If I'm in a romantic relationship, I want to lead. I want to have a frame such that the woman I'm with doesn't have to worry so damn much. Are we going out to eat? You know what? I'll decide that. Because let's be perfectly honest, between Chinese food, pizza, and a steakhouse, you're just gonna flip a coin until we get figured out. Because I'm down to eat anything. Yeah, right. So leadership, great. Safety. How do you assess trust in regards to safety?
So we have to keep in mind that we're talking about a few different things with safety, right? Like, we're talking about, like, are you gonna rape and murder me, or in some cases murder and rape me? Safety. Are you going to domestic violence, harm me? Safety. Are you going to scam me out of my money? Safety. Are you going to attack my sense of self? Safety, right? And so I think that like, number one, recognizing that safety does not mean one thing. And so here comes, like, men, right? Like, they're like, I would never hit a woman. And I'm like, get into an argument with me and I'll get you really close to that. But
yeah.
But you know, I think that even if men can be very controlled with their aggression and physical aggression, it doesn't mean that a woman is gonna, number one, she's not gonna know that, right? Like, how do you just just like know somebody is gonna be that kind of safe? It takes a while to get to know them, and even if you've known them for a while, and you can say like I've pissed off a dude or two in my life pretty well. And, you know, watching them handle it in a way where they're not getting physically aggressive, violence. I had a boyfriend that would just, like, clean. He would get really mad and he would clean. And I would just be like, it's really weird, but okay.
It's a very good direction.
Watching him, like, organize the magazines. And that. But that didn't mean that emotionally that there was safety there. I met him at a time in my life where I was young. He was a little bit older than me. He had this very critical mother and father that he like picked up these critical styles. I kind of picked up some of that critical communication style, and you know, we had a lot of values and views that clashed. And so but like one thing that I was always raised with was like, you don't call people names, you don't like call them stupid, you don't. Maybe me and my siblings would argue, but our parents never want, like, I cannot remember in my life ever my parents calling me a name, calling me stupid or insulting me.
That's a very good thing.
Yeah, because I was raised by villains and didn't always have a good parenting experience, but I could tell you, like, they did not fuck that up. That part they were really good at, right? And so then when I had this boyfriend and like he could call me a name, I'm just like, what? You think that's appropriate to do? Like, where did you learn that? Like that I would never. So the idea of emotional safety, the idea of you know, can I tell him my hopes and dreams and he can be supportive or ask questions or whatever, or just like totally not get it, shoot it down. Like, how is he going to respond to this? So I know in that regard, that's a thing that a lot of men share with women too. Like they're like, and they may not always see it the same way as emotional safety, but like they know that that's basically the piece of it. Like, can I go meet this woman and tell her the things I'm interested in too? If I say I like playing video games all the time, is she gonna laugh at me and think like, oh, I live in my mom's basement and I don't have any hobbies and nobody likes me and I smell like milk, right? Like
I smell like milk.
So, you know, I mean, like men very much are getting that very similar feeling that women have, sometimes for the same thing, sometimes for different things. And like, I gotta say, like, there's a lot of things that women will shut men down for. So,
yes.
You know, and call it, like the number of my friends that have asked me before, like, you can date a gamer? Like, are you okay with that? And I was just like, whoa, like, just because he plays Call of Duty sometimes does not make him basement kid, right? Like, not, you know, and sure, like, sometimes I want to get out and geek out on some games for a while or, like, who knows what, right? But we hold all these judgments inside that we don't know how to communicate about and bridge a gap. And so we have to, like, put that armor on. It's a lot of the stuff that Brene Brown talks about like not being vulnerable.
Vulnerability, yep.
Yeah. And I think that that's a big aspect of where this current safety issue is standing, is we've got women and men both having to deal with like the emotional safety. And then like, if men swear they're not going to be physically aggressive to women, then they're not going to get like, well, why is she afraid? Because that communication is already gone right there.
Yes.
So that's, I think, the real gap that we're talking about.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm coming from a place in a family of origin where if you were vulnerable, it was immediately used against you. Like same week. It was like, oh, here's this person I'm crying with. And then it's used and stabbed right in the heart. So I think then I have heard other men say things similar. It's like, yes, there's a lot of fear around actually taking the armor off. And the last part you said, like communication, I think it's just hard for men in general. Like, it's a fearful place. The world's random and chaotic. It's not tragic per se, but it can be. And it's like, I think it's very hard to really understand the constant danger, if that makes sense. Or maybe I guess the constant feelings of danger or feelings of fear. Is that a good way to put it?
That men have, women have, both.
I'd say women have, because there's that experiment, you know, raise your hand, get 100 people, raise your hand if you've been, you know, last time you felt like you were in danger for your life, year, month, week, and by the end of it,
the last time you had a man hit on you and you didn't want him to because you were just busy going to buy some oatmeal at the grocery store.
Yeah, I did that this week. A very attractive lady and she scampered off in fear. And I'm just like, oh, well, this is rejection hurts. That's
Yep.
fine. But to be seen as a monster, agonizing.
Right. Well, and I think that's the hard thing. It's like, how many women are willing to put themselves out there and deal with that fear of rejection? And there's still this kind of like older thing that women are like, why I want this man, like when we were talking about like gender roles before you're recording this, and you know, one of the gender roles that we think of is that men should pursue the women. Men should make the first move. There's a lot of things that men should do. There's a lot of things women have told me that they're waiting around for this man to do. And if he doesn't do it, then he's not necessarily like the type of man she's looking for. And I've spoken with and read enough commentary on men to understand that they recognize that there's certain types of men that are easier with throwing themselves out there to deal with that rejection. But like any man who does it is like kind of putting like this courage armor on, right? Like, because it's that sense of maybe they're not always afraid. I mean, like, not every time I go up and talk to a stranger am I afraid. Sometimes I'm just like very gregarious and happy, and it's cool, especially if it's under my control. And then talk about control again, right? And then if it starts slipping out of my control, like, then maybe I'm less comfortable with it. And so, you know, you have like a man that's like basically expected to be the one who is always courageous, like doing the thing, while he may have some level of fear about the thing, right? Or maybe he doesn't. And that might be something to watch out for, because there's also, because the women are like, I'm always waiting for the man to make the first move. I don't want to go up to a man and risk my rejection, or risk like he's got a girlfriend or whatever. And the men say, if you're always waiting for that man who's going to come to you, who's willing to like not worry if you have the boyfriend that's going to come running out, like, why are you talking to my girl? Like, you're just going to snub him off, or you don't care, whatever, right? Like, if you're always waiting for that man that's going to come to you, you have to recognize that there's certain personality traits that are there in those men, and you may not like that package deal for those personality traits go for. So we're not always at a safety thing of like, are they safe or not? Sometimes we're at like a willingness to do the work thing. Sometimes we're at a capability of recognizing your desires and what you want and go after it thing. And sometimes we're worried about how are we going to be viewed if we're the ones that walk up to a man and you know, not one time have I ever heard a man say though that he would be insulted if a woman like comes up to him while he's biting his oatmeal and
Never.
like, hey, you look interesting, can we chat, right? Like, I've never heard a man say that. I've never heard a man say that he would feel insulted or upset or unsafe if he has to tell a woman like, I appreciate that, but I'm married.
Yeah, I've never heard that. Me personally, I would really enjoy it, actually. Oh,
right.
You're actually displaying interest in me first. Nice.
Right. But women aren't necessarily safe with themselves to, like, you know, we're not always skillful to know how to put that first move. We've been indoctrinated. We've been conditioned to believe that men won't like us if we're that bold, which all the current information kind of says the opposite of this, right? Like, maybe that was our grandmother's generation, but everything points to the opposite now. But we have not had centuries of training of doing this. We've had centuries of training of risking, like, maybe getting burned at the stake at worst, or just getting shunned at best and gossiped about if we put ourselves forward there. So we're not very skillful at it. But I think what that really points to is you've got, again, these two sides that are just grossly misunderstanding each other, and they're vying to be heard so that they could get somewhere, but like nobody knows how to listen to the other side. So we haven't went forward yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you listen to any of the TikToks or the YouTubes or anything about dating, there's this consistent and repeated idea, almost like warfare, like specifically men treat women like the enemy. Well, maybe that's a little extreme, but let me explain it. I was listening to this one thing where it's like, okay, the conversation, maybe woman says, hey, I want X, Y, and Z from this person, and that's the person I want to marry. And the narrative is, right, but I see the person you want to sleep with.
Oh, so true. So true.
So there comes this entire thing with men and women where it's like, okay, or rephrase, maybe with men, there's a lot of ideas of like, I can't trust you. And it's like, no, you can. We just have to understand what the actual attraction factors are here and what that means both in regards to, hey, a long-term commitment and just a sexual relationship. And one of the things you said before, like if you're attracted to this person, but maybe this person is putting himself out there very easily. And there are certain personality traits that come with that are no bueno in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people who have jokes who can get a girl's number, but who's a real scumbag.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's difficult to ask a girl's number. You know what you have to do that?
Yeah, ask.
Just ask, right? And women, unfortunately, often will provide information that they're asked for. And part of changing this is teaching them, like stop it. Stop answering questions you don't want to ask. But not that necessarily all of those have to be a fight. Like, we don't have to fight back. We just have to figure out, number one, do I want to answer that question?
Mm-hmm.
And then go from there. And then, like, it's not sufficient to say, like, no, I don't want to answer that question, but I'm afraid of the fallout of what I'm going to get from you, because chances are, like, maybe I'm going to say I'm going to feel unsafe, but like chances are, like, physically I'm not unsafe. It's more that emotional space of me traveling
Mm-hmm.
into the gray area that I'm not comfortable in, which is the possibility that I may hurt your feelings from rejecting you, which is like not even entirely true, right? Like, if you ask for my number and I say no, you may feel rejected, but I'm not the one who hurt your feelings. I just said no. That's all I did. I mean, unless I had the other words on top of that, and then maybe I'm an asshole. But I mean, like so there's a lot that's in the background that isn't heard by men and women, and that I think that stuff in the background needs to come to light. But they are very adversarial because most men are not going to hurt women. Most men, like, that emotional safety. Well, I can guarantee you, though, like, there's not a lot of truths in life. But if you're going to try to get close to people and you're going to try to have meaningful, important relationships, I can guarantee you're going to get hurt. You're going to hurt other people. And that's like the thing that people are afraid of is getting hurt and hurting others, right? And I promise it will happen. And the quality of that is based off of how we learn how to recover from that. Like, is this a person that I want to patch things up with or not, right? So we have to be able to get the stuff in the background up so we can do something about it. We have to risk hurting ourselves, scaring ourselves. We have to risk hurting others, because maybe if we're doing it in that right space, like, maybe like that pain is now going to be a shared pain and supportive pain that we can do something with and say, like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I hear that. Oh, let's change something. Let's do something different, instead of just like I've got to protect myself from you, but like also I got to protect myself from me.
That part. Yeah. So I work with so many men who are terrified of hurting anyone else. I'm like, okay, the pendulum has swung very clearly the other way. I don't want it to go the other direction where it's like, okay, I'm totally fine with just beating the shit out of women all day. But I'm just like, okay, listen, do you really want to be in a relationship with someone? You're miserable and you're just living a lie and you're doing this for 20 years. And you're just like, maybe you should just break her heart. It's okay. In the short term, it's going to suck. In the long term, but Steve, the guilt. And my normal thing is feel the guilt and do it anyway. Because even
right. Because who are you trying to save then? Her feelings or your feelings, right?
Theoretically both, but mostly yours, mostly your own.
But yeah, I hear that a lot in relationships too, and especially from men. It's that one of, well, I don't really have a reason to break up with them. Do you have a reason to stay with them, or what? And they're just like, well, and I'm like, isn't that a reason? Like, what do you think that person would think if they knew that that's how you felt? Like, do you think they'd want to stay with you, or feel like, thanks for sparing my feelings, I feel fucking like shit now, right? Like, no, let them go. It's also a lack of trust. Like, if you lack the trust in your partner, or even in a conversational partner, right? Like the lacking the trust in them to be able to manage their own feelings, thinking that they're so fragile and breakable, right? Rather than trusting that they can be hurt and recover and repair. And I think we need a little more trust in people that they're not so fragile and breakable. Like most of us haven't made it this far in life because we're fragile. We have resilience.
I love it. Yeah, and I've sort of broken up with people, and it has led to an hour-long crying session.
Sort of like, broken up.
Okay, I don't want to go too deep in this, but there was an instance where I was not dating someone, but the person was interested. I'm in a bar. I'm like, listen, this is going to work out. We drink and we're eating pizza, and she's crying for an hour. I'm just like, okay, this is awkward, but it had to be done, and that's okay. And I was sad. I'm feeling a little. I'm allowed to feel feelings, but it's like, okay, this is good in the long term, because God forbid I like date this person and we hate it, and I do this once again for 5 years, or maybe even just 5 days. And it's like, no, I'm not invested. I'm like being the fake boyfriend. Yeah. What if she finds out? What if she says, oh yeah, I'm just doing this to spare your feelings? Like, fuck that. So it is insulting.
Yeah, I feel like that's almost worse though, right? Like, reject me if we're not a good match, but like if you hang on to me and we're not a good match, I almost feel like that one's worse. Like, to the heart.
I need to re-update this short video I made probably years ago about like a lot of couples don't have marriages, they have mortgages. It's like, no, I can't go back to living in a 1-bedroom, Steve. And I'm like, oh, you're going to be in this loveless marriage for 20 years. And God forbid you have kids as well. You're going to be in this loveless marriage just because it's more convenient. Wow, you're doing yourself and your partner all the favors.
I won't blame people who do that, because like as a person with no children, it is baffling to me at times how people who have children will live separately, and some of them are like, well, I need this like extra bedrooms in this place for these children that are here half the time, and like and they just find a way to sustain it. And I think that is, I shouldn't say magical, because that would dismiss all the hard work that people put into that, but like it's just insane that they figure out how to accomplish that. And if some of them don't want to, because they're like, also, what I'd rather do with my money is like maybe take my kids on vacations or whatever. If it's not an unsafe family dynamic, I wouldn't blame them for that. I think the difference is more like, are you in agreement in your marriage that that's what you're doing at that point, so that you're creating that healthy environment for everybody, including the kids? I don't know that it's a bad message to send to kids, but of course, it kind of hinges upon that sense of is it a safe environment, right? Like, it's not emotionally repressive. It's not, there's not a bunch of arguing and whatever. And I think that there are couples who accomplish that quite well. So I don't want to say that there's like one right or wrong way to do it, but like certainly like, well, that's not true. There's wrong ways to do it. Anyway,
wrong way is dishonesty. Wrong way is like, I'm checked out, but I'm not telling you.
Right. And you know, because kids sense that too.
Oh, they know. Everyone's like, oh, I need to hide this from my children. They know. If they don't know, then they're at least feeling that there's something wrong because it's in the air.
Mm-hmm.
It's screaming. It's screaming from the speakers. It's there.
But I think though that like if a couple was honest about it, and a kid knows, like, you know, maybe my parents are going to split. Like, how many kids though have said like, I expected my parents to divorce when I graduated high school, right? Like, so they know
all the time,
and they don't. I don't know that all of them are upset about it when it's in a mutually agreed upon arrangement that provides a better quality of life for them. But I mean, again, like, how many couples that have the disputes are able to have that level of communication? So I think that's why they're there.
I don't get those, by the way. I always get the clients who are like, no, they hated each other and it was miserable and they should have divorced when I was 8, not 18. It would have made my life a lot easier.
Sadly, that is the more common one, for sure. I think the other thing though that prompts that is that when a couple is not honest, when they can't communicate, it builds that resentment behind it that creates that, like, you were the enemy, right? And then I have to like fight you. So I think that's part of the issue. And so it all comes back to this, like, how do we communicate these things in a way that we can get each other to listen and say, like I don't have to defend myself on that. I don't have to tell you, I don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because maybe I do. I probably do. But like, also because I think that one of the other big issues that gets in the way of people having authentic, healthy relationships with friends, with intimate partners, like all of that, is that they're trying to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to be a good person. They view themselves as a good person. And because they're adhering to this belief that they should be a good person, then they don't want to believe that maybe they do things that is not what a good person would do.
Yeah. Oh my! I have so much time. I have so much work unbrainwashing so many of my clients where it's like, your standards of good are fucked in this situation. Maybe they're good overall.
That standard anyway. Who decided what was? I mean, I can decide what I like, how I like to be treated. You might not like to be treated the same way I like to be treated, but you get to decide that too. And these are very valid opinions, and they're very important. But like, who decided who was good? Like, nobody that really was out there to help us.
No.
You know, but it really is them to try to convince us that their idea of good is what we should be, because it helps push their goal. And like, even a lot of those people are dead already, so who fucking cares what they think? But it's just not, like, never mind the fact that we can't live up to that ideal, it just simply isn't what most of us want. Exactly. So why are we trying to be a good person when that version of good isn't what we want? And then you're afraid, like, oh, well, if I'm not trying to be a good person, am I going to swing to this other side and be a bad person? Like, no, the average human's not a fucking psychopath. They're not going to do that thing. Like they're okay, right? But here's the thing. It doesn't make you a bad person when you make mistakes. It just makes you a person that made a mistake, right? And that mistake may have been with that person, but not that person. And so, like, rather than overcomplicate this thing, just take it moment by moment. Stop trying to be a good person. And then you no longer have to hold on to that idea that if you do that thing, you're a bad person. And therefore, you can never acknowledge that you ever do that thing or would ever do that thing or like never do that thing, right? Because that's not what I do. So like the moment that we let go of that vision of being good, we can start hearing things differently also. And hear like, I don't have to defend myself now when you tell me all the things that women do and I don't do those and say, not all women, men do that too. I don't have to defend that because like I'm not a good person. I'm not trying to be a good person. I'm trying to be the person I want to be. And then if you tell me this thing that happens that hurts you, and I'm like, yeah, I do that shit.
I don't want to be a good person anymore. I just want to be an authentic person.
Which, generally speaking, most of us like and are safe. So, like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's an overcompensation I see with a lot of my clients where it's like, oh, where does the standard come from? And then people don't think this, but it's like, I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like my mom. Right. And it's like, if I have any self-interest, not even selfishness, any self-interest, if I ask someone for something, if I'm a burden, then it's like, I am figuratively worse than Hitler. I'm like, you're figuratively worse than your dad. That's who you're trying to avoid. And you're trying to be as far away from that guy as possible or that girl as possible. And it's like, no, you're allowed to be human. Let's cut this shit. Let's get some healing so you can just like scale back a little bit. What if I'm evil? No, it would take a lot of work and effort to get you anywhere close to evil.
I think the hard thing to hear with a lot of that, though, is like just because your parents did things that hurt you also doesn't make them evil. Except there are a few people that have had like some pretty atrocious parents, but most of them, like, they're just parents that dealt with their own trauma. And, and some of them, I mean, how many times did I do things that I didn't know what I was doing that hurt another person? And I thought I was doing the right thing. Maybe it was just what I know, whatever. Like, I can see a lot of the things that my parents did that they're not evil, but at the same time, like, I can say I don't like those things. I didn't like being raised that way. I didn't like experiencing those things. And I think that that's a more potent statement rather than vilifying them to just say, like, I didn't like it. But I see that a lot, though, too, where I have clients that will, like, try to, I probably tried doing this at some point in my life. I don't know. They try to avoid doing certain things that their parents did, being like their parents, right? And so then in that avoidance, sometimes they try to do the opposite. And then I'll ask them, but like, is that a thing you want to do?
No.
Like, I don't want to yell at my kids like my parents yelled at me because I hated being yelled at. And so then I'm never going to yell at my kids. And I'm like, and also you're not setting boundaries with them. You're not giving them limits and structure. Like, is that a thing you like? Do you really want to be a person who's doing this? No.
I'm cutting out this clip and sending it to all of my clients. Yeah, so they're like, okay, you don't want to yell at your kids. Are you setting any boundaries? No. Yeah.
Oh, like, you can be a person that just doesn't yell.
You can be assertive. That's the one thing I work with a lot of people, like assertive, civil. You don't have to raise your voice. Like if someone's coming into aggression, but you do have to have the boundaries and you do have to have the expectations. This is the line. You cross it. These are the consequences. Simple.
And like, also, it's not bad to yell sometimes. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person to yell sometimes. It's just that sense of like, is that the only tool that you have in the toolbox, right? Like, all you do is just yell, or do you just yell sometimes? Like, I promise you, yelling sometimes, happy yelling, mad yelling, I don't care. Yelling sometimes, so is fine. It could be good. So there's nothing wrong with some of the and like, yeah, like sometimes you might scare the shit out of your kids or your partner when you do it, and like, I don't know, like that might not always be a bad thing either. That's sometimes the only way I get my dog to listen when something is like you're gonna chase flies and catch them. Yay! That fly has a stinger. Stop.
Yes. Safety is a good thing. And yeah, having it having your kids having a normal emotional reaction, a fear response to you yelling, might not be a bad thing. Don't terrorize them. Don't do the child abuse, but maybe it's appropriate sometimes.
It's fair. It's fair.
All right. So I know we jumped around a lot. This has been a great conversation. We were talking before about guys and gals. Let's be very open. Let's be very taking in things, non-defensive here. What's something that guys should know about girls and girls should know about guys? Whichever one you want to start with.
I don't know that I want to answer that question that way.
Oh yeah, you rewrite the question. That's fine.
Like what? Because I feel like in a sense, like we said some of those pieces already. So I don't know if that would be like the most useful statement to add there. But like what women should know about women in dealing with men, I think might be a more important.
I love it. Let's go for it.
And it's like you know, women should know that the first thing that they want to do is check in with themselves about what they want or they don't want. Because then it comes into a different place. So then, you know, if you're going to go hit on me in the grocery store when I'm getting oatmeal and I don't want to be hit on because I just want to get my oatmeal and go home, I have a potato in the oven. It's probably a bad idea to ever leave that potato in the oven thinking that I could just get oatmeal very quickly and go home. But these are not all the things that you know when you're going to come talk to me in the grocery store, right? And so if I'm sitting here thinking first and foremost, do I want to have this conversation with you? You're so very nice to me and I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I don't want to have a conversation with you. If women know that about women, if women know that about themselves, it then becomes easier to say like the real work that has to be done in some of these circumstances, like by far not all of them, but in some of these circumstances, it's identify what you want with clarity, right? It's with the clarity to say, maybe I do want to have the conversation, but I want to keep it to 5 minutes. Or maybe I think like, oh, like I appreciate the conversation. I can't have it now. I'm just going to say like, let's exchange some contact info and continue at a different day when I can actually decide like, are you a person that I want to get to know better or not? But like right now, I don't want to burn my fucking potato in the oven.
Yeah, love it.
And maybe I can give you real contact info or fake contact info. Who knows? It's tricky, but
give real contact info or just say no, thank you.
But if I realize I don't owe you anything, I owe myself everything. I don't owe you anything. I'm gonna care less about your feelings. And if I do it in that way, that is just like, this is a need that I have. And you may now become the champion of my need, despite the fact that you're not getting what you want, but you're giving me what I want. And that becomes a better situation to walk away from, right? Like I appreciate you coming and talking to me and being brave. And I don't have the time to talk right now. And I'm grateful that you'll let me walk away and like hopefully walk out of this feeling like, damn, we did this thing and it was cool, even though it went nowhere.
Yeah,
that might be a better situation. Or even if it's a thing that goes further, like I want this mystical man that has all these qualities and whatever, and like maybe they contradict each other, but like I'm a contradiction, so like maybe that's fine too. I also want healthy ice cream. And, you know, when I got pretty fucking clear on wanting that, I found it.
Oh, nice. Good.
It's not mythical. I guess, you know, I think I wasn't entirely clear on how affordable I wanted it to be, but we'll get there.
You found it and it seems worth it.
You know what? It's a great start. It's better than where I was before. So I think that what men would be better off knowing about themselves before dealing with women or when dealing with women, it's because it's not entirely a thing about knowing about women. Like I can tell you, like women have all this history of being oppressed and being property by men, and are they going to get harmed and whatever. And like theoretically, men know all that shit. They've heard it all before. Like you have to be living under a rock at this point if you haven't heard glimpses of it. The only issue is like, have men cared to, like individual men, right? Like has each individual man cared to explore this more, or just say like, I don't do that shit, I don't know why they care anymore, right? Like where have they been? But I think that the part about men is that they need to sort is what level of defense puts you in a place where you can deal with what you want and deal with the result you're going to get as well, right? So you know, a thing I tell people a lot, because everyone also is like telling me all the time how being defensive is bad, right? And I'm like, the fuck it is. Have you ever watched football? Have you ever done martial arts? Have you ever been in the military? I've never lived in a country with a military. Have you ever lived in a country with or without a military that had anybody on the outside opposing it, right? Like defense is not a bad thing. How you use defense is very important, right?
Love it.
I'm not skilled enough to talk about football here, but
me neither. I know nothing about sports, but I know a lot about war.
Same concept, right? Same concept. Like if you overuse defense or use it incorrectly, it can turn into something different than what you want it to do. In one sense, we know like the oppressed becomes the oppressor, overuse defense. If you underuse defense, you're dead. You do not score in whatever capacity we're talking about scoring. You don't do it because you underutilize defense. So defense is not bad. When we're at taking that word into defensiveness, like that's where we start thinking is bad, but like we're like equating this entire concept together. And so like we have to practice not being defensive as much as like learning to use defense in a healthy way so that we can come up to our opponent or our other team members and like hold the line and still work on accomplishing a goal, right?
I love this because I'm you know, there's the entire war thing, but theoretically you want it also to be a filtering process. It's like, here's the boundaries, but I'm letting X, Y, and Z in. That's what we really want. We love, affection, connection, belonging. We don't want to be taken advantage of, hurt, and, you know, manipulated, all that crap.
Well, I mean, like on a basic level, it's like, will I let my friend walk my dog? Will I let my friend watch my kids? Will I let my friend hang out in my house when I'm not there? Will I let my friend have the PIN number to my debit card? Will I let my friend have the password to my email account, right? And so like everyone's going to have these various levels of if they would say yes or no to those things, and depending on what friend. And so like the answer doesn't matter, but the point of it just kind of shows you that you're going to have varying levels of trust and defense that you give even to people who are close to you. And that is a healthy, good, great thing. If there's someone who will say like yes to all those questions, I might ask a few more questions about like how safe they generally keep themselves from people, and like how often they get taken advantage of. But
yes,
but most of us know though that like if I ask my friend, I probably will do this now because I'm an asshole and I just want to like fuck with some of my friends, but like if I ask my friends like for the PIN number of their debit card, most of them are just gonna be like, why are you asking? No, I guarantee you so like at least half of them are not going to say no. Like that's not the first thing the first thing, right? Like they might get to know, but like at first they're going to be like asking questions about that or like what? But and they're going to be confused. I guarantee you, like not even half of them will just shoot out no right away, right?
Okay.
So like there's a level of defense that we have to learn how to pick up. And so like men, it's not a bad thing if they learn that defense.
Just use it appropriately.
Yes. Now the problem is now that a lot of them are going to ask like, where is that line? And that's a much bigger conversation than what we have right now. But like I do think it's an appropriate question to ask. So like it's valid and yeah, and so I think there's like so much more that we could.
Oh, we could have like a 5-hour conversation, but let's not do that.
We could have like a whole fucking like course on this.
Oh,
that
next time we're gonna do the male-female dynamics course with both of us. We're gonna charge $3,000 each.
I mean, we could, but.
Not yet. We'll save that. We'll save that to the side burner.
There's that balance of like making information accessible. Oh, it's such a hard thing to sort out, right? Like, how much money do I want, and how much do I want people to access information? That ultimately
you can do both.
Yeah. You can. There's just a balance in there, right? So I don't know.
We'll figure out the business side for the next live stream podcast, whatever this thing is. But let's pause here because this has been a great conversation and my laptop is running out of juice and the outlet is too far away. So Nance, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been great. You've shared so much great information with me. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad you were open to it and like brave despite that capacity that I potentially hold to shoot you down and tell you you're a fucking monster.
Oh, I hope not. But I thank you very much. I appreciate I appreciate you being gentle with me. It's pretty nice.
Things I'm not usually accused of being.
Right. All right. So let's pause here. This has been the first podcast. Let's call it Vitriol. Because if you know anything about psychodynamics or alchemy, it's something really cool. Anyway, this is Vitriol 1. Nance, where can people find you if they want to work with you?
NancePease.com.
Fantastic. All right. Listeners, you'll get another one of these live streams soon. You guys take care.